I wiped down the last table at Sophia's Kitchen, my small restaurant tucked away in a quiet corner of downtown. The evening rush had been steady, not packed, but comfortable. Just the way I liked it. Or at least, that's what I told myself. My phone buzzed with a message from my sister Amanda. "Don't be late for Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow. Mom's already upset you missed the family photo shoot for her charity gala." I sighed, looking around my empty restaurant. Tomorrow would be another round of explaining why I chose this humble life over the corporate career my family had planned for me. The next day, I pulled up to my parents' sprawling mansion in my old Toyota. Luxury cars filled the circular driveway, my sister's Mercedes, my brother David's BMW, my cousin's various high-end vehicles. My Toyota looked like it had taken a wrong turn and ended up in the wrong neighborhood. "Sophia," my mother's voice carried across the marble foyer. "You couldn't have dressed up a little? This is a family celebration, not one of your little diner shifts." I glanced down at my simple black dress, actually a designer piece worth more than most people's monthly rent, but purposefully understated. "Happy Thanksgiving, Mom." The living room was full of familiar faces wearing familiar expressions of pity and condescension. My sister Amanda, fresh from making partner at her law firm. My brother David, who ran our father's investment company. Cousins, aunts, and uncles, all successful in their chosen corporate paths. "How's the restaurant?" Aunt Patricia asked with fake sweetness. "Still keeping the lights on." If she only knew that I'd spent my morning on a conference call discussing the global expansion of my restaurant empire. But I just smiled and nodded. "We're doing okay." "Okay isn't exactly thriving," David chimed in. "You know, there's still a position open at the firm. Something more stable." I thought about the contract sitting on my other desk, my real desk, in my private office 40 stories above Manhattan. The papers that would finalize my company's latest acquisition, making us the largest restaurant group in 3 continents. But here, in my parents' house, I was still just the failure who walked away from a promising corporate career to open a little restaurant. "The restaurant industry is brutal," Amanda added, swirling her wine. "Didn't you read about that new chain, Global Flavors? They're revolutionizing the entire market. Now that's what I call success." I bit back a laugh. Global Flavors was one of my companies operating under my corporate umbrella, Sterling Hospitality Group. Not that any of them knew that. The story of how I built my empire started 7 years ago, right after I opened Sophia's Kitchen. While my family thought I was wasting my business degree on a small restaurant, I was studying the industry, spotting patterns, and identifying opportunities. My first big break came when I developed a revolutionary kitchen management system. Other restaurants started asking to use it. Instead of just selling the software, I offered to buy struggling restaurants, implement my system, and turn them around. One success led to another. Soon, I was acquiring restaurants across the country, then internationally. Each one operated under different brands, but all were part of Sterling Hospitality Group, a name my family had surely seen in the business news, though they never connected it to me. I kept Sophia's Kitchen as my base of operations, my sanctuary. While my family thought I spent my days cooking and waiting tables, I was actually running a multi-billion-dollar corporation. The restaurant's small office concealed a private elevator to my real headquarters above. "Sophia, honey," my mother's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "Your father and I were talking. Maybe it's time to consider other options. You're not getting any younger, and that restaurant is doing fine, Mom," I interrupted gently. "Unhappy." "Happy?" My father scoffed from behind his newspaper. "Happy doesn't pay the bills. Your sister just closed a multi-million-dollar case. Your brother's managing billions in investments, and you're serving meatloaf to locals." I thought about the acquisition papers waiting for my signature, the contracts worth more than my father's entire investment portfolio. Tomorrow, Sterling Hospitality Group would announce its biggest move yet, buying Global Flavors and consolidating our position as the world's largest restaurant chain. The announcement would be made on the massive screens in Times Square. My name, my face, my success impossible to ignore. But for now, I just helped my mother carry dishes to the dining room. "At least tell me you're dating someone successful," my mother pressed as we set the table. "That nice Wilson boy from the country club is still single." I thought about my penthouse overlooking Central Park, my private jet, the island I bought last summer. "I'm focusing on work right now." "What work?" David laughed. taking orders and counting tips. Amanda joined in. Remember when Sophia was going to be CFO of a major corporation? Now she's excited about getting good Yelp reviews. I stayed quiet, thinking about the meeting I had next week with the Chinese government about expanding into their market. The contract's worth billions sitting on my desk. The empire I built while they were busy judging my little restaurant. Well, my mother sighed dramatically. At least someone in his family is keeping us humble. Though I do wish you'd let us help you, darling. Your father knows several restaurant developers who might be interested in your location. Those developers worked for me, though she didn't know it. In fact, half the restaurants in that development group were secretly part of Sterling Hospitality. I'm good, Mom, I said simply. Really? As we ate, I checked my phone discreetly. Everything was set for tomorrow's announcement. The Times Square reveal would happen at exactly 9 a.m., just as the market opened. My family would finally see who really ran the restaurant empire they so admired. Did you see the business section today? David asked Dad. Sterling Hospitality is making some big move tomorrow. Rumor has it they're buying Global Flavors. Brilliant company, Dad nodded. Whoever runs it really understands the industry, not like these small-time operations. He glanced meaningfully in my direction. I hid my smile behind my wine glass. In less than 24 hours, they would learn that the small-time restaurant owner they dismissed had built something beyond their wildest dreams. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight I listened to their condescension, their pity, their certainty that they knew better than me. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong immediately. It's waiting for the perfect moment to show them just how wrong they've been all along. The morning after Thanksgiving, I stood in Times Square at 8:55 a.m., watching early tourists shuffle past with their coffees. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since dawn. Messages from my family about an emergency meeting at my father's office. Apparently, their investment firm was about to lose a major client to Sterling Hospitality Group. I smiled, knowing exactly why they were panicking. What they didn't know was that I had orchestrated everything about this moment, right down to the timing. At exactly 9 a.m., the massive screens above Times Square flickered. My face appeared, 40 feet tall, alongside the Sterling Hospitality Group logo. The announcement scrolled across in bold letters. Sophia Anderson, FOUNDER and CEO of Stevia Inc. HOSPITALITWGOB ANN of UNC is DLB Gale Acquisition. Tourists stopped to stare. Phones came out to capture the moment. My phone exploded with notifications. First came the text from Amanda. What the actual hell? Then David. This has to be a mistake. Tell me this is a mistake. My mother, Sophia, called me immediately. I turned off my phone and walked to my father's office building. The security guard did a double take as I approached. He was used to seeing me in my restaurant clothes, not the channel suit I wore today. Ms. Anderson, he stammered, your family is waiting in the main conference room. I know, I smiled. And it's Ms. Anderson Sterling, actually. The elevator ride to the top floor gave me time to prepare. Years of hidden success, of quiet achievement while they mocked my choices, had led to this moment. I could hear the chaos before I reached the conference room. David was shouting about stock prices. Amanda was arguing with someone on the phone. My parents were trying to maintain order. I pushed open the door. The room fell silent. Good morning, I said calmly, taking a seat at the head of the table, my father's usual spot. I believe we have some business to discuss. Business? David exploded. You're the owner of Sterling Hospitality, the company that's been buying up all our restaurant industry clients? I nodded, pulling papers from my briefcase. Among other things, would you like to see the acquisition documents? My mother's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. But your little restaurant is the heart of my empire, I finished for her. Every new concept we develop gets tested there first. That little restaurant has launched 50 successful chains across 3 continents. Amanda grabbed her laptop, typing frantically. Sterling Hospitality Group. Valued at, oh my God, $8.2 billion as of this morning, I supplied. Though that number will probably go up after today's announcement. My father had remained silent, staring at me with an unreadable expression. Finally, he spoke. Why the deception? Why let us think that I was a failure? I met his gaze steadily. Because you never would have let me build this my way. You would have interfered. Tried to control everything just like you did with David and Amanda. We only wanted what was best for you, my mother protested weakly. No, I corrected her. You wanted what looked best to your friends. Your daughter, the corporate executive. Perfect. Your daughter, the restaurant owner. Embarrassing. Even if that restaurant owner was building something bigger than anything this family has ever achieved. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city I now partially owned. Do you know why Sterling Hospitality is successful? Because we care about more than just profits. Every restaurant we acquire, we keep the original staff. We improve their wages, provide benefits. We source locally, support communities. But the profits, David started, are bigger than your entire investment portfolio. I cut him off. Because it turns out treating people well is good business. I turned back to face them. That failing restaurant you mocked? It's the training ground for every manager in our company. Those locals you look down on, they're now executives in a global corporation. While you were chasing status, I was building something meaningful. My phone buzzed. My real phone, the one only my executive team had the number for. Excuse me, I said, answering it. Yes, proceed with the press conference. As I hung up, my father finally found his voice. The Wilson account, our biggest restaurant industry client, is now part of Sterling Hospitality, I confirmed, along with most of your other hospitality industry portfolios. Don't worry, we'll retain your firm's services for now, though you might want to update your client list. Amanda's legal training kicked in. You can't just. Actually, I can, I interrupted. And I did. Check your emails. All the documents were sent this morning. Legal, binding, and completely above board. The silence that followed was deafening. Years of condescension, of subtle jabs, and not so subtle criticism, all shattered by the reality of what I'd built. So now what? David asked finally. I gathered my things, straightening my jacket. Now, I have a restaurant to open. We're launching our new flagship location tonight, right here in Times Square. You're all welcome to attend, though I understand if you're too busy with your real jobs. As I walked to the door, my mother called out, Sophia, wait. All this time, when we were criticizing you. You were wrong, I finished for her. But that's okay. Success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. The next few weeks were interesting. My family struggled to reconcile their image of me, the failing restaurant owner, with the reality of who I was, one of the most powerful people in the global hospitality industry. My parents started bragging about their entrepreneurial daughter to their friends, conveniently forgetting years of criticism. Amanda and David suddenly wanted my business advice. Cousins who had mocked my career choice were now sending resumes to Sterling Hospitality. But I didn't change anything about my daily routine. Every morning, I still opened Sophia's kitchen, greeting regular customers and occasionally cooking their favorite dishes. The small restaurant remained my sanctuary, my reminder of why I started this journey. The only difference? Now when people asked about the framed Times Square announcement on the wall, I could smile and say, sometimes the biggest dreams start in the smallest places. My father stopped by the restaurant one quiet afternoon, looking uncomfortable in such a humble setting. He watched me wipe down tables, probably wondering why a billionaire would still do such menial tasks. I don't understand, he said finally. Why keep this place? Why not just run your empire from a corner office? I looked around at my first restaurant, at the worn tables where I planned my first expansion, at the small kitchen where I developed recipes now served in thousands of locations worldwide. Because this is real, I told him. Corner offices and boardrooms, that's all just theater. This, I gestured to the restaurant around us. This is where real people come to eat, to connect, to celebrate. This is what it's all about. He nodded slowly, finally beginning to understand. Today, Sterling Hospitality continues to grow. We're in 40 countries, operate over 2,000 restaurants, and employ more than 100,000 people. But every Tuesday night, you'll still find me in the kitchen at Sophia's, cooking my mother's old recipes and remembering how it all started. The Times Square screens still show my face occasionally, announcing new acquisitions or expansions. But my favorite sign is much smaller, the simple Sophia's kitchen hanging above my first restaurant, reminding me and my family that success isn't about how others see you. It's about staying true to your vision, even when no one else believes in it. even when they laugh, even when they call it a waste of time. Because sometimes the smallest dreams cook up the biggest successes.